At Central Avenue and New Street is the place we hold our proceedings here today. Pro Mazdas often find themselves running around as they have done for a number of years on the iRacing service. But today, they head to one of the newest tracks on the iRacing calendar. This is the Detroit Grand Prix at Belle, and we will start in just 1 moment's time. "14 turns, 3.78 kilometers, and a whole lot of pacing to go. 18 laps here today at a circuit which is full of bumps that can even rival the Sebring circuit. But more than that, it's the walls that bite straight back. It's a street circuit on iRacing. It's the Detroit Grand Prix here on iRacing Live, brought to you, of course, by RaceSpotTV, and the Pro Mazda Championship is here. I am #DoYouMindJake Sperry, the observer of sim racing. On my own for this one, got Paul Smith behind the cameras for this evening's race. And of course, we are in the midst of qualifying. 8 minutes, 2 laps to get that time sorted. Martin Arnoldus is currently on the pole by half a second from Aurelian Gimmelwitz as things stand for the moment. Third is Eduardo Martin in the number 9 machine, but Tim Clayson's in the number 3, looking to make his charge to the line, and he will not set a lap time. He will have to go again, as this track certainly does seem to bring out the best, sometimes the worst in racing as well. Keep an eye, though, on the number 5 machine as well. But before we do, we take a look at the championship standings as things look. Daniel Fletcher currently on the top on 705. Thomas Jordan in second. Of course, legendary when it comes to these mid-power open-wheel vehicles on 672. Stefan Rosgen, who's in the field, is tied for third as things stands with Jean-Michel Noyon and Medema in fifth. And the likes of Alessandro Maresta, Thomas Seeger, Everett Paddock, and David Dendelo occupy the top 10. Not forgetting Carl Crowley, of course. But for the moment, at least, it's seeming like times are coming in. Eduardo Martin moves up into second position on a 1:24.1. Short lap here, but one where you have to be at your very, very best. That's typically what you see from the street circuit design. Ollie Peacock, though, currently in 4th position in the number 11 machine, looking to charge this one as we keep an eye out on a driver, Ronnie Nunez, here for Torque Freak Racing, making a charge. And look at that lap time. Moves himself up onto the front row in a 1:24.142. So fantastic lap by his standards. But Ollie Peacock then has just made his charge out of Sunset Drive, and he just doesn't quite get pole position, out by just a 1/10 of a second, because Martin Arnoldus has found another 2/10 on his lap, a 1:23.662. Keep an eye on the likes of Everett Paddock. We sometimes see him in the 60+ Racing Adventures League as well, which let's get some words out, Jake, which obviously means that he is one of the veterans of iRacing. And just as I say that, loses it coming through turn number 9, heading towards turn number 10. Well, actually through 10 into 11, sorry. So Everett Paddock, not much more he can do. David Dendelo in the 17 moves himself up into 6th position as Ronnie Nunez still on lap time, heading through the quote-unquote infield section past, of course, the famous fountains that you see here in Belle Isle as he now makes his way up through the second part of Strand Drive and now through this very difficult right-hander. Small lift of the brakes, then hitting the power fully as he heads himself on Sunset Drive and a small kink right to get himself over to the line. Ronnie Nunez needs a half a second and he finds the half a second. What a lap time from the number 2. That's pole and nobody else can set a lap time to rival it. The grid is pretty much secured then, and for the moment at least, Ronnie Nunez finds himself on pole position for this one. No stops for fuel. We are not expecting for this one today. Just a straight old sprint of 18 laps to make sure that you get yourself over. Got David Dendelo setting lap times as well. Just getting that last minute practice with a minute to go here in this qualifying session. Currently, 2 drivers have not set a lap time as of yet. That's Vincenzo Taormina and Matteo Vicenti. And the pair of them seemingly will not get out in time to set a flying lap. We are going to go through the grid once we get ourselves ready then for the race procedures. In fact, we're going to get it up for you right about now. Ronnie Nunez then, pole position, 123.617. He's got himself a good half a tenth of a second over Martin Arnoldus on the front row, with Ollie Peacock starting this one from 3rd and Eduardo Martin starting from 4th. Aurelian Gimmelwitz will start this one in 5th with David Dendelo in 6th position. Joey Vergara starts in 7th with Tim Claessens in 8th. Thomas Ziegler will go from 9th, and Stefan Rosgen, the elder statesman, starting this one inside the top 10. Jamie Brinkley then with Gabriel Martin Alvarado, Fabio Aoki, Gonzalo Saber. We've got likes of Everett Paddock and Ari Sejas, who were the last 2 drivers to set times. Matteo Vincenzi and also Vincenzo Taormina, we already noted, have not set lap times here for qualifying. We will see if they make it over to the starting grid before the 2 minutes are up. Worth noting as well that the inside line for turn number 1 is given to the driver who starts with the even numbers position. So Martin Arnoldus could send it down to the inside at 1, but of course turn 2 is a switchback up over the bridge and onto Central Avenue, which is one of the toughest corners. It's so tough it even makes a safety car crash from time to time. But besides that, you've got that big braking zone at turn number 3, and then you're in the tight and twisty sections before you head onto Strand Drive 1. And of course, this lap, it just never stops trying to be a challenge. And sometimes you need all of that high grip to make sure that this circuit is as ferocious as possible as the drivers continue to look to grid up here. It's also worth noting, official series racing, so they've got more than just the race on offer. 17 incidents, and of course there is I-rating and safety rating in the mix for this one today, meaning that everyone has to drive just that little bit more carefully around the Detroit Grand Prix circuit. But the good news will be, it's not really an instant point wrecker. It's one that's going to be very much different, but the lights are on. And it's a big jump start already from the 4th row, and he will storm his way up into the race lead. He'll have to take a drive-through. That's Joey Vergara, who completely jumped the start, had to commit to it, and decided, you know what? If you're going to jump by an inch, you're going to jump by a mile. There's an incident in the back of the field, potentially, and that one not actually forthcoming. So, heard a little bit of a contact, but nothing forthcoming. So, Vergara leads this one, but net on the road is Ronnie Nunez as everyone now filters into turn 3. Now looking for turn number 4 as well. No real overtakes we're seeing. Still got everyone just forming into line here. Single file only as you head through 5 and now up into 6 and onto Strand Drive 1, which is this very difficult snaking straight. A lot of room on this one to have an attack when you get yourself down at turn number 7. A look from Ronnie Nunez then as he thinks about going to the inside. He doesn't make the move, but that still puts him under pressure then from Ollie Peacock, currently in net second. And there's a contact crash as Arnoldus goes around 2 in, 3 in, spin as well from the driver who was in 3rd position. Eduardo Martin and Tim Claessens have run into Arnoldus. Aurelian Gimmelwitz has also gone around. Replay then of this one up on screen. We'll see this one. Claessens diving down to the inside, but the incident happened way before that. They've got nowhere to go, and that was just a case of Gimmelwitz having a big tap. Of course, you see Claessens going on, Martin going on as well, and that was not ideal for either of them, and that's one of the perils. There's Gabriel Martin, who's just gone up and over, heading himself out of Sunset, or into Sunset Drive. There was also another vehicle who was stopped. Didn't quite catch that one, but there was contact. Gabriel Martin eventually with Gonzalo Saber, so that one for Gabriel Martin was not ideal at all. There was another vehicle stopped, and that one was just before Sunset, and that, I believe, was Ronnie Nunez of all people. So Ronnie Nunez as well getting involved in an incident. I think it was contact with the race leader at the time, Joey Vergara. So Vergara heading himself, Vergara had a spin, heading himself onto Strand Drive 2, and that spin just completely caught out a certain Ronnie Nunez. He's now on pit road. There are no fast repairs in this series, so Ronnie Nunez out, Arnoldus is out, Gimmelwitz and Vergara are pretty much out. Got Gabriel Martin, who's out of this one as well. Ollie Peacock leads, and David Dendolo is now all of a sudden in 2nd position with just 0.2 of a second to work on with as well. So a lot of drivers running into issues already in the early stage, and I count that as maybe 5 retirements out of a field of 17, not including Taormina, who has not made the start. So we're down to 12 only when it's gone after just 2 laps worth of action. Ollie Peacock at the front, 0.2 of a second, now up to half a second here as he pulls out a little bit of a gap on David Dendolo. Battle for 3rd, though, is Thomas Ziegler versus Stefan Roosgen. So Roosgen, the elder statesman himself, has moved up from 10th all the way to 3rd. Worth noting that David Dendolo does have damage, and it's heavy on the front left of that machine, so that's going to mean that Dendolo is going to be struggling with downforce at a very downforce dependent track, it has to be said, as things we look at number 8 currently in terms of the battle. This is Everett Paddock, the number 1 machine currently, has Matteo Vincenti, who did not set a time in qualifying behind, and just in front of him is Gonzalo Faber, who was involved in that incident with a certain Gabriel Martin. So for the moment at least, Gonzalo Saber holding a bit of a gap this battle. P7, P8, P9, all of them line astern as they head themselves into this fantastic complex as they get themselves on the brakes into 7, and you start running yourself through the corners. 8, high curve, got to be very careful when you get on the exit. Then you've got the small kink here of 9, which leads into another smaller kink of 10. You hope that you're not turning and braking at the same time, into 11 and Strand Drive 2, before you head yourself to 12, 13, and then Sunset Drive, which comes up very quickly. James Brinkley, though, has moved up 6 positions off of the start. He's got Fabio Aoki just behind, who has moved up a full 7 positions off of this one, as David Dendolo currently has pulled himself back to within 0.2 of a second at the front of the field, but he's not quite close enough to make a dive when they get at the end of Central Avenue. So keep an eye on Aoki just for the moment, because he's tucked up underneath that rainbow, in fact that Benetton-inspired 7-Up liveried Pro Mazda that we see as they head themselves through turn number 3 on circuit. Now through the sweeping corners, 4 as Aoki gets a huge kick of the tail and tries to head himself through 5, holding on as much as he can. Dirty air, certainly not as heavy as you'd see, say, in a Formula 1 car, but they still play a little bit of a factor in vehicles like these. So for the moment at least, it seems that Fabio Aoki has eyes on trying to make a move, as he's currently in a Lotus-inspired livery there, the black and gold, about 2013 there or thereabouts. Aoki desperately trying to find himself as close as he can, but that gap just opens up from Brinkley, but he completely overshoots turn number 11. This is going to open the door up for Aoki now as he heads himself towards turn 12, but backs out of it, decides that he doesn't want to make that move. Worth noting as well, Aurelian Gimmelwitz is back up and going, but he is currently scored as 1 lap down. Keep an eye though, battle for your race lead. Ollie Peacock, David Dendelo. Dendelo has been struggling through 2, getting up over that bridge and back down it again to really have an attack on Ollie Peacock. He may just be waiting for the perfect opportunity because they are actually getting closed down. Last lap time from Ollie Peacock was a 1:24.7. It was a 24.6 from David Dendelo. It was a 24.5 though from Stefan Rosgen, who is currently at the fastest man on track as he tries to chase down the leading pair, who are 2.7 seconds down the road. For the moment at least, that battle for fifth, well, get some words shake, battle for fifth position is now starting to be the battle for 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th and 9th, because at the moment it seems that Brinkley is being caught not only by Aoki, but Saber, Paddock and Vincenti, who are all there. But there's Brinkley letting through Fabio Aoki. He knew he was beaten on Strand Drive 1, and that's going to mean that he will drop backwards into 6th. And now the next train will look to try and swarm their way through. And you can already see how Aoki is starting to pull the gap away. Aoki from Club Brazil, looking to try and just get himself away. He's already pulled himself away a huge margin as Gonzalo Saber now looks to try and make the attack, not quite getting the run through 13. And onto Sunset Drive's Small Kink of 14 turns up into that right and onto the front stretch. So Brinkley, for the moment, holding on, just a little bit paint by numbers there through 1 and 2, missing both apexes. The second one considerably by a larger margin, as here comes Gonzalo Saber, looking maybe at the inside, but not close enough yet to make the move on the brakes into turn number 3 at the exit of Central Avenue. And just for now, it seems that it stays line astern. Thomas Ziegler in 4th position, being just broken here, 0.3 of a second on that last lap, and Dendelo losing 0.2 to Ollie Peacock as well. But now you see Gonzalo Saber go from offense to defense now as Everett Paddock starts closing down. But Paddock, certainly wise in his years, will be very wise in the way that he places his vehicle on track. Probably won't go for any desperate moves just yet. We are at the end of this lap, 1/3 distance through this race. Let's take you on board then with Gonzalo Saber just for a moment, because powered by ATVO, this is RaceSpotTV Fan Immersion. Incident up on screen. We've just seen Gonzalo Saber out of the event. That was at turn number 1 as he got himself on into 1, and he was just over the curb, just clipped the grass there, and around went Gonzalo Saber. A shame, but keep an eye on the race lead because it has changed places. David Dendelo made the move at turn number 3, and he did it around the outside of Ollie Peacock, who he himself has heavy and copious amounts of damage of his own. And the replay of that on screen around the outside at turn 3 just got better traction on the short run to turn number 4. That was a brilliant move there from David Dendelo, and that's one of the reasons why he is so high up there in the championship. But now Stefan Rosgen is right on the rear of Ollie Peacock in the battle for 2nd position. So Rosgen, the elder statesman, looking to make the move. Number 5, Club Diach, looking to make the charge. So heading himself towards turns numbers 1 and 2. The top 3 split currently by 1.2 seconds, and Rosgen did a 24.5 on that last lap. Both Dendelo and Peacock were in the 125s and 126s respectively. That just tells you how much they were checking each other up over the course of that last lap. And wide goes Ollie Peacock through turn number 3, about as wide as you can manage without touching the tyres, which you see scattered around the outsides of the circuit for safety protocol reasons, of course. And just now, there is also Vincenzi versus Paddock, which has just managed to keep itself good for the moment. But the time at least, Ollie Peacock getting himself a little bit of a gap, using the draft to his advantage here as he battles it out and still trying to stay in contact with David Dendolo, as Dendolo pushes maybe a little bit hard there through turn number 8, and very, very close to brushing that outside wall. You have to be so careful. You're almost gimmicked in the same way at Monaco that you're gimmicked to thinking that a driver is going to be hitting the wall. So effectively, it's they haven't hit the wall until they've absolutely clattered the wall. That much you can certainly say. But for the moment, at least, a lot of drivers will not be coming away from this event with a nice, healthy spate of I rating and safety rating. That much I can tell you for a start. But at least as things stand at the moment at the front of your field, it is very close, and round goes David Dendolo into the wall at turn 2, heading on to Central Avenue. And Dendolo, I'd say a forced error by that one. He was under immense pressure trying to get the power down early. Car just bottoms out, gets a little bit of air, and Dendolo pancakes himself head first into the barrier at turn number 2. He's able to get himself back going. The replay you've just seen up on screen, but my goodness, if that car was battered and bruised before, it has been absolutely demolished at this point as he heads his way onto Strand Drive 1. This allows Ollie Peacock then the race lead as things stand, but keep an eye on this battle over P6 because Jamie Brinkley has just got himself lost the position to Matteo Vincenzi. That one was down into turn number 3. Just very simple, very basic on the brakes. Last of the late breakers, and he gave him pretty much next to no room, and he just had to run ever so slightly offline. Almost take the escape road a little bit there to Jamie Brinkley to try and avoid an incident, but Vincenzi is through and now up a full 11 positions so far in this event. Started this one in 17th, already up into position number 6. Half distance then scored complete in this race. Ollie Peacock holding 0.3 of a second of an advantage. He did lose the lead, but then the mistake came from David Dendolo, who is still out and running here in 4th place, currently 3 seconds ahead of Fabio Aoki, doing 1:25.2s in 7th position. So certainly very close at the moment between those, and we expect that gap to just close, but we've got to keep an eye on those times. Rosegen, though, absolutely swarming here over Ollie Peacock as we keep an eye out on an overtake that has just happened once again. Jamie Brinkley losing the place, this time to Everett Paddock. So Paddock has made his way through now on Brinkley, down at turn number 3. So a fantastic move there. Peacock still holding on, though, at the front of the field as they head next to the fountains that you see at this track. On the brakes, right-hander coming up again, and Peacock again, just slightly missing that apex, but able to bring a little bit of drive, but still that draft coming into play for Rosegen, who closes up through turn number 12. Closes up slightly through turn 13, and probably the closest he has been here heading through turn 14. They're out of Sunset Drive and looking at turns 1 and 2 and onto Central Avenue. The gap just 1.5 between the pair of them. Rosegen's machine worth talking about here because he is absolutely fine and on the limit through turn number 2. Peacock, with that damage to the front wing as well, has to be so careful, nursing his way around the track as they head into turn number 2, and it's very clear that Rosegen was quicker. 0.2 on that last lap. Peacock a 1:24.8 that last time by, and we've got ourselves another spinner, and that's not going to be helpful at all. It was Everett Paddock who was the man who spun around, and the 60-plus man at turn number 2, I do believe it was, as he goes up and over, and he just catches it wrong. Gets himself a nice 360. He's done so well, actually, to keep that one out of the barriers. Everett Paddock, got to tip your hat for that. That's some fantastic car control, if it is indeed. Currently only 9 vehicles on the leading lap, and the only battle that is close on circuit is this one for your race lead. And Ollie Peacock still holding a very strong defence, and it has been a very solid drive from Ollie Peacock. Hasn't done anything too dangerous. He hasn't been overly aggressive either, and in fact he's starting to pull that gap away from the Club DH number 5 man, Stefan Rosegen. It was at 1.5, that one, this time by up to 0.6 of a second. And Vincenzi has turned around, and that is going to be very, very frustrating for him, because that was heading through turn number 12. He just got over the curb, desperate to try and keep it out of the wall. He loops the vehicle, had to wait, I believe, for Everett Paddock to make his way through. So Matteo Vincenti drops a couple of positions from that one. Fortunately for him, he is effectively a mile ahead of Ari Sejas in the number 18. So he's certainly doing something right at the moment, but for the time being, he will not be happy at the way he has spun this vehicle. And of course, the way that these bumps really do attack the circuit, it means that you have to be so careful, especially the setup as well of these style of cars. Make sure that you've got yourself a higher ride height to make sure that you can attack the course without the course trying to bite you back in places where it really shouldn't. But still, for the moment, Thomas Ziegler in third position, losing time, and David Dendelo, keep an eye on this, has just dropped himself back another 0.4 of a second. Aoki is now within 2 seconds of Dendelo in the scrap for 4th position on the road. So, for the moment at least, David Dendelo trying to nurse the car home, trying to limp a wounded vehicle and trying to get it back. But keep an eye on that lead battle once more, because Roosjen still within 2.5 of a second and just not able to close that down enough. You need to be within probably 1/10 of a second in these vehicles to start thinking about making a decisive move into turn number 3, and he's not close enough. But look at how he closes that gap up, just not able to get the power on the exit. 2 contrasting lines there, Peacock and Roosjen, 2 very different lines there through 3, and now they head into 5, and maybe a little bit more aggressive there was Roosjen, as he was a lot closer to the curbs, and sometimes you have to drive on the limit. Little wiggle from Ollie Peacock coming out to the exit onto Strand Drive 1, and this may be the chance that Roosjen's been wanting. He's thinking about going to the inside, which is the long way round, which turns to the inside. He thinks about it on the brakes, but he's just not able to commit on those brakes in comparison to Ollie Peacock. Peacock left himself a car's width at all times. That was some fantastic defense there from Stefan Roosjen, and I tell you what, you're not going to find many better defense than that at a circuit where drivers want to be as aggressive as possible. But still, Stefan Roosjen will look to try and attack as much as he possibly can. Of course, well within the laws, well within the limits. He is trying to attack onto lap 14 of 18. 5 laps remain then at Detroit Grand Prix here at Belle Isle. And for the moment at least, the number 11 of Ollie Peacock holding himself a 2 3/4 tenth advantage over Stefan Roosjen on the brakes into turn 3, and still holding and maintaining, managing the gap, I think is the right terminology we'll be saying there. Certainly managing everything right now. Your retirees so far in this event: Vincenzo Taormina didn't make the start, Martin Arnoldas, Ronnie Nunez, Joey Vergara, all on the opening laps. Gabriel Martin on the second lap, same for Tim Claessens. Eduardo Martin out, same for Gonzalo Saber. And Aurelian Gimmelvitz currently scored as 1 lap down in the final position running in this event, which is 10th place, which sort of reminds you of the old Formula 1 races, how they didn't have very many finishes back in those days. But still, for the moment, lead battle with 4 and a little bit laps to go. Roosjen just trying to set himself up, trying to just play a bit of chess here, shall you say, just trying to work out, okay, where is Ollie Peacock the weakest on this track? And wherever he's the weakest is the place I'm going to have the opportunity to attack the most. We've seen how Roosjen's been able to attack through Strand Drive 1, and we've certainly been seeing how that has been trying to keep going into Strand Drive 2. But at least for the moment, they know that they have to be a little bit careful about battling too hard, because Thomas Ziegler did a 25-1 on that last time by. Certainly not closing, but he's in the wheelhouse if anything should happen between the leading pair. And trust me, at Detroit, sometimes incident is very unavoidable, as we saw on the opening lap for the likes of Tim Claessens and Aurelian Gimmelvitz. But for the time being, Roosjen having himself a good charge, and both of them really struggling with the outside wall, having to just lift out of it slightly as they try to pull themselves back into line. And maybe has cost RaceSpotTV more than it has Ollie Peacock on the brakes into the right-hander at turn number 7. And, well, at least for the moment, keep an eye also on David Dendelo, because that gap has come down over the course of this lap, under 1 second. So Fabio Aoki, keep an eye on this. The battle for 4th position. Dendelo desperately trying to just bring the car home as much as he can. 3 laps to hold off Fabio Aoki, who is running some high 24s compared to the low 25s of David Dendelo. 3/10 over that last lap. That gap should be around 0.8 of a second as things stand for the moment. So David Dendelo, just a case of trying to run for the border. And quite interesting actually here at this Detroit Grand Prix circuit. It sits on the Belle Island, which of course is in the middle of the river that splits itself between the United States of America and on Canada as well. And on cue, Ollie Peacock finds himself the fastest lap of the race, 1:24 flat, and finds half a second on Stefan RaceSpotTV. So if there was ever any doubts in terms of pressure on Ollie Peacock's shoulders there from Club UK and Ireland, they are completely gone now thanks to that lap, which he has managed to get himself together. It's only, get this, 0.3 of a second off of his qualifying effort, which was of course a 1:23.7. So Ollie Peacock certainly starting to show the feathers just a little bit more in terms of this one. Get back though to Fabio Aoki for the moment, and also you've got Jamie Brinkley under pressure as well from Everett Paddock. This one, the battle for 6th place with just 2 and a little bit laps to go, as Dendelo almost clipping the wall on the outside of turn number 8 as he now, or turn number 9, sorry, as he heads himself into turn 11. But I think Aoki has been struggling a bit, but Everett Paddock now seeing that Brinkley is making a few mistakes in that Jordan-inspired livery as he now makes his way in towards turn number 11. Looking at Strand Drive 2, he's got a good run here actually. He could send one down the inside, but I doubt he'd want to at this stage on the brakes into that right-hander, but not close enough really to make that charge. He'll probably have a look at it at turn number 3 as RaceSpotTV responds straight back, gets the fastest lap of the event of his own, 1:24.014. That's a full, probably about 17 thousandths of a second that he's managed to pull off in terms of the fastest lap. So he'll take that much at least, but no bonus points for a fastest lap. Not in this series, not in this one, but Paddock still underneath that driver down the inside. And well, a lot of space being given there by Jamie Brinkley on the penultimate lap. He's trying to survive as Everett Paddock makes his way up into 6th position, but the battle also on for now 4th position as Dendelo under pressure. Here comes Aoki down to the inside, looking to make the move at the end of Strand Drive 1, and it's not over yet. Dendelo looks to fight back, but he falls back into line through turn number 8, and that should be that for the moment. The white flag will be coming out this time by for your leading pair, and it is still close between them. No mistakes needed. Ollie Peacock must hold on for 3.78 more kilometers. The gap as they cross the line has been halved again. It's now 0.3 of a second between them here as Ollie Peacock now heads himself onto Central Avenue. No mistakes as he moves to the inside and he begins the weave, trying to break the draft. Desperately moving now to the inside and back to the outside to take natural line, knowing that RaceSpotTV is not going to be close enough in through Central Avenue for the moment at least. He'll be happy with this. Now through 4, now heading towards turn number 5 here. This left-hander, 90 degrees, opening, arcing corner. Little wiggle as he tries to keep the power on here as he heads into 6. And RaceSpotTV has been strong out of 6 as they now head on to Strand Drive 1, looking to try and make that run. He's maybe RaceSpotTV. He's not going to have many opportunities after this. He may have to send it at the end of Strand Drive 2 if he's got no other alternatives. The answer is he has no other alternatives. He wasn't close enough, but look at that. The gap probably halved again, 10.5 on the brakes. Left-hander turn 8. RaceSpotTV trying to take everything out of that vehicle as he now heads through 9 and into 10. Do you send it? And he goes into the back. There's contact. There's 2 bits of contact. And he checks up RaceSpotTV. And Peacock, if he finds himself safe through the last 2 corners, may have just run the gauntlet on this one. RaceSpotTV a little too eager, maybe a little too slow on the brakes as he headed through 11, but the run out of Sunset Drive is all Ollie Peacock's, and he will proudly take a race victory, which he had to defend for the majority of this event. Fantastic drive from Ollie Peacock. Second place will go to Roche, third to Ziegler. Aoki will hold off David Dendelo, and Everett Paddock will seemingly run away with things from now until the end of this one, and he will be safe home. Same can be said as well for Matteo Vincenti, who he himself, gaining 9 positions, will be very, very happy with in terms of his drives. The last 2 vehicles then to cross will be the 1 lap down Aurelian Gimmelwitz, who will finish in 10th position. And of course, Ari Sejas as well, who's been very quiet, driven a race on his own, number 18 of 18. So certainly someone who doesn't have the I rating per se, but someone who certainly will be taking a very nice points haul coming out of this race indeed. And Vincenzi did just set the fastest lap on the final lap of the race, a 1:23.833. That's a fantastic lap. If he set that in qualifying, that would have probably put him in 4th position. So that just tells you how hard he was pushing in terms of this one. Results, though, they are up on your screen right now. And Ollie Peacock takes the victory by a shade under 0.3 of a second from Stefan Roschen. Thomas Ziegler finishes in 3rd place, with Fabio Aoki taking the position away from David Dendelo with 2 laps to go. Dendelo throwing away an opportunity at a race win. Everett Paddock finishes in 6th. He had a spin today, but he still drove fantastically up the field, 9 positions, as did Aoki. You've got the likes of Jamie Brinkley, who lost a lot of positions today, but drove very, very cleanly, made sure he respected a lot of drivers in this field. He comes home in 7th with Matteo Vincenti in 8th, setting the fastest lap of the day. Ari Sejas finishes 9th, 1 lap down is Aurelian Gimmelwitz in the 2nd page. You pretty much may call it a graveyard at this stage, because Gonzalo Saber, Eduardo Martin, Tim Claessens, Gabriel Martin, Joey Vergara, Ronnie Nunez, the likes of Martin Arnoldas and Vincenzo Taormina either didn't make the start or didn't manage to finish this event. But for the time being, at least, we are going to very, very briefly step aside, because we'll be back with the post-race show after this. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Mazda Championship here on iRacing Live, brought to you, of course, by RaceSpotTV. I am #DoYouMindJake Sperry, the observer of sim racing himself. Paul Smith has been behind the cameras for the entirety of this one. And currently I'm a very lonely Jake Sperry because we've had no drivers turn up and want an interview. So we'll bring up the results for you once again. Ollie Peacock, of course, taking a fantastic victory by 0.3 of a second, just under, against Stefan Rosjen in what is arguably a very, very spirited defence from Ollie Peacock. Did only what he needed to against a driver who started 10th and charged his way up the field into second position. Some great movers, though, up through the field. Fabio Aoki and Everett Paddock, also Matteo Vincenti, all share highest gainers in the field. All three of them gained 9 positions throughout this race, and that just shows you that if you just keep it on the island sometimes, keep it out of the barriers, there are positions to be gained in races, and consistency is one thing that certainly helps, as well as the pace. But as well as that, there is also that championship to think of. 4 drop rounds are certainly going to be very important, and especially at this late stage of the championship, which these drivers are at the moment. Results like this are not going to help. It's going to mean that those sorts of drivers are probably going to have to jump into another race at some point during this week at the Detroit Grand Prix, or they're going to have to use this round as one of their drop weeks, which is not going to be helpful if they've had a poor result earlier on in the season. But for the time being, at least, that is pretty much going to be everything then here on RaceSpotTV this evening. A massive thank you to everybody who gets it done for us. First of all, to And Wern Designs, the official graphics partners here at RaceSpotTV, as well as ATVO and Appgeneer, the official graphics engine here at RaceSpotTV. Of course, our camera pack has been brought to you by TrackCams22 and Istvan Belle. Make sure that you check that out, as well as the very, very important work that has been done by Simon Grossman on the animations, and the live timing and scoring brought to you by Nick Thyssen. Of course, it's worth noting that's not everything that we've got going on here, because we've got the likes of the V8 Super Truck Series, which will be happening in just a shade under 30 minutes time. Join Justin Prince and Paul for that one, as well as a triple header tomorrow, which is more about 20 minutes, actually, should I say, for the Super Trucks. But we also have tomorrow a triple header, first from Pretty Pocono, the Logical Classic IndyCar Series. Join Jack Stiles and Tom Jacobs for that one, as well as the second round of the McLaren Shadow Project. Do you want to be a McLaren Shadow driver? Well, you got to drive that one. The Nürburgring with Will Vincent and Connery Maddock. And of course, the Indy Elite Series shall wrap things up with Pocono once more. Their 140 is going to be something to behold indeed. But for the time being, that's Paul Smith behind the cameras. I'm #DoYouMindJake Sperry, and I'll tell you this right now, Ollie Peacock, with a defense like that, there's pretty much more of a ceiling than you've got than just a Pro Mazda. Sayonara.